Welcome to Charging the Agency Frontier. Today I'll be interviewing Michael Palma of the Palma Group. Michael's the most prolific recruiter in the history of advertising with over 1,300 placements over 30 years. He's responsible for $400 million in agency new business revenue for his clients and has managed over 40 agency reviews for brands like Coca-Cola, Arby's, Heineken, Zaxby's, Mohawk, Bojangles, Stainmaster, and Church's Chicken. I've asked Michael to come on the show to talk about how small to mid-sized agencies can compete with new business today. And Michael, before we get started, can you introduce yourself and add a little more color to who you are and what you're about?
Sure.
Besides our matching Lacoste shirts, of course.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
Yeah. It's good to be with a very well-dressed man. I'm a basketball coach. I somehow found my way into advertising 30 years ago. I started my coaching career in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I have an affinity for the city where you're based in North Carolina. I founded my company in 1989 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I've worked with hundreds of agencies since. First as a headhunter, mostly for creative people, but for management folks as well, and I continue to do that today. That's one of my core businesses, is executive recruiting for ad agencies. I took a break on the agency side and wound up running new business for BBDO, and we had a good run. We had a lot of success. I learned a lot. And then I got into new business consulting. My dream was to have a hybrid headhunting firm and new business consulting firm for agencies, so we would help the agency get the business and then staff it up.
Yeah, grow and scale.
Yeah, and that happened out of necessity. I mean, when the towers got hit in 2001, September 11th, recruiting virtually came to a halt. There was not a lot of advertising being done. And the most common person I was asked for by clients like Bogusky and Tom Monahan was new business people. And there weren't many people back in 2001. There were about 5 new business people. Lori Coots, Cleve Langton. There just weren't a lot of new business people. Here it is. It's 19 years later. There's thousands of new business people, but there were only a few back then. So what I committed myself to was to learn how to help my clients get new business agencies, and then staff it up. And I took a few years off on the agency side with BBDO, and I learned how to help agencies get new business. And then in 2010, I started blogging about agencies and creativity. And I started getting calls from marketers, from CMOs, about helping them find resources, like you, Robby. And so Heineken was the first, Church's was second, Arby's was third. No, Arby's was second, Church's was third. And that was about 40 reviews ago. I'm running a review right now for a European imported car. It's very sexy. It's very cool. I can't say who it is. But I never chose to do that part of it. I never woke up one day and said, I want to be a search consultant and write RFPs. I picked up one day when I was a college basketball coach and said, I want to be a headhunter for advertising agencies. And I did wake up one day and said to myself, I wanted to be a new business consultant for agencies. But I never woke up and said, I'm going to write RFPs and help brands find agencies. It kind of just found me. And this is the 10th year. We've done about 40 reviews. And it's not as much fun as people think. But I do it anyway. So I hope that was colorful enough. And maybe we can move on to your questions or the next question. And that's kind of my little story in a very big nutshell.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Gives a little, definitely gives the color and context to, your perspective where it's based, which is good. So, and that's awesome. The Winston-Salem connection. It's a small world, so I'll just say that.
Yeah, no. Winston-Salem was the first place I've ever experienced loneliness, because
Yeah.
I left as a 18-year-old. When I left my home and family, I was no more than a boy, um, and went to Wake Forest on a basketball scholarship, and it was the first place I've ever been alone in the world. So I have quite an affinity to the city.
It's a good town. It's been good to me.
It's come a long way.
All right. Let's dive in. So tell me a little bit more specifically what the Palma Group does. You talked about it a little bit in your intro, but specifically, kind of what does that offering look like?
We do three things. None of them well. No, I'm only kidding. For 30 years, my core business has been headhunting. Last year I probably made 40 placements. I'm making one today. I've just, before this call, I was running reference checks. At my core, I'm a recruiter. And a lot of those principles I put into new business, because I think new business is recruiting in a different way, but recruiting. We consult with ad agencies on new business best practices, and we do a one-day seminar. We did about 50 last year, where it's a workshop. It's a full day. It's so much better than Mirren, if your people are going to Mirren, or at least I'm told. I also speak at the 4As with similar content. I'll be at the 4As MFP and PF Management Practitioners Forum in March in Chicago. If any of your listeners are going to be there, I'll be there. But we do new business consulting. I do outreach. For one agency, and I'd rather keep that confidential. And we run reviews for clients. I do 3 or 4 a year. I can't do really more than 3. 4 is pushing it. I'll never do 2 at once. I don't know how consultants do 2 at a time, but those are the 3 core offerings: are headhunting, new business consulting, and agency search for brands.
Love it. And then, what about your background kind of makes your perspective so valuable for agencies?
Yeah, I've been on, I don't know, I should know that answer because I'm asked a lot, but I've been on just about every side of the table. I've been on as an outreach consultant to agencies. I've been a consultant to agencies. I've worked for agencies. I ran new business for maybe the best agency in the world at that time, BBDO. I was around a lot of great people. I've been inspired by great coaches. I played for Jim Valvano. I was recruited by great coaches. So I have a perspective a little bit like Forrest Gump, maybe, where I've happened to be at the right place at the right time continually through my career. And I don't know if it's, the big man upstairs or if it's his luck. But what makes me qualified, I think I've been on every side of the table, on the agency side, on the consulting side, on the search side. I've experienced it from every side of the table, and sometimes simultaneously. So I think I bring a point of view that's not one-sided. I'm not just an external, or I'm not just a search consultant, or I'm not just an agency guy. But I think that might be what uniquely qualifies me for that.
Gotcha. All right. And then what is kind of at the, what's the process at the core of your topic today?
Well, I've switched gears. I was going to do my last 4A's presentation, which is basically what's new in new business, which was extremely dated content. It was October 2019. Now that's, it's almost obsolete. But I just blogged this morning. I wrote MikePalma.com. A shameless plug for my blog site, which is my website. And it was 20 things to do for new biz in 2020. I didn't say 2020, I said 20. and it's pretty fresh. I've been thinking about it over the holidays, and I've been asked now. I mean, it is January 16th. I've probably gotten 100. I don't know what the number is, but a lot of emails and phone calls and questions from clients like, what can we do? What's the new trend? Or what can we do? So I went on a boat and I thought about what could be my first real valuable blog post this year. And it was 20 things you can do in 20. I was going to do 21 things, but I thought 20 for 20 would be better. So I saved one for later. But there were
Nice.
So that's the topic, and I forgot the question about the topic I've been talking.
Yeah, we're just talking about the process at the core of the topic, which I don't know if that was related to the previous one or not.
Well, I mean, new business evolves. I mean, when I started doing new business in 2001, it was different. I mean, it was a numbers game. The internet was new. There was no social media. There was no LinkedIn. There was no Facebook. If you had a website, you were rare. So you did it differently, and it's evolved, or maybe it's de-evolved through technology. We used to just call people, and a phone call now is very rare. But over the last 19 years, I've learned the hard way what works and what doesn't. What worked last year in 2019, my clients had good years last year. And I would feel like, was part of that. I didn't bring them the business to deliver it, but I helped them win business, and a lot. And I think the winning agencies, and I'd rather not name them. Well, I'll name one, like Tombrus Group is one in Knoxville. They do the right things. And I learn from my agencies as much as they learn from me. When I talk to agencies, it seems like they hang on every word I say, but I really hang on every word they say. And write. I study their RFP responses. I study their websites. And this is what worked last year. So I assume it'll work this year. Although I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's out there doing something better than me. They're younger. It's a guy like you, and they're going to do what, they're going to rewrite the book, and I'll learn from them. That's why I like your thing, Robby. I learn, from a agency stable, and I learn this stuff. I read your. You should have more content, but
I'm trying to find time. I got 3 kids and a couple businesses, and
I got 3 kids. I have a 33-year-old son. He's a creative director. Won a Cannes Lion, won a Gold Pencil on one show. He's 30. He's 33 at 360i in New York. I have a 3-year-old, so I'm with you, bro.
Wow, 3-year-old. Yeah, I got 3. Yeah, that's. Give you props. All right, I wanted to ask you a question, and this is interesting to me as well as a matchmaker, similar on the new biz side as far as introductions. I typically stay away from more of the traditional RFPs and make more one-to-one matches, or lead a pretty streamlined, introducing 3 or 5 agencies, bringing them to the table. In your business with RFPs, a lot of agencies are kind of anti-RFP these days and negative about it. We spend all this money and it's risky. What's your stance on the nature of the RFP and things like spec work and some of the, pros and cons of participating in RFPs in 2020?
That's a great question. I just did a full day. I just booked a full day seminar with an agency in North Carolina. And all they want to do is talk about RFPs, pro, con, how to do it, when not to do it, how to respond to them, how to write with them, what the right template is. Hey, it's funny because I come into contact with a lot of agencies, and the reason why they reach out to me is they hear I'm a consultant, of course, and they want an RFP. And then if I wind up consulting with them, I coach them into avoiding the RFP. I agree with you. I think an RFP is one of the less effective ways of winning new business. However, it's where 60% of the revenue lies. So if you're that much of an anti-RFP Nazi, you're cutting yourself out of the 60% of the pie. You might not want it. You might only want the 40%. The other 40% is more likely, even if an RFP is dead in your sweet spot, your chances of winning are 15, 20% at best. So I'm with you. I agree. And my shtick is avoid them. My process that I put into place for agencies is anti-RFP. Now, of course, if you never respond to an RFP, you're just as guilty as someone who always does. I don't believe in absolutes. I learned that in over 30 years. Anything that applies to everything is I'm little leery of. I don't think you should say, "Oh, we'll never respond to an RFP," or we'll never do anything, or we'll always do this. I'm very leery of agencies that say we never, we always. But like I said, if you're that anti-RFP, you're cutting yourself out of 60% of the new business revenues for 2020, and you're just fishing in the 40% pond. And maybe that's where you want to fish, and maybe that's where you'll get the most bites. And in fact, I know that's where you'll get the most bites. It's just like me. I write 3 RFPs a year, maybe 4. I think if an agency responds to more than that, you're kind of off focus. You're off your, you don't have your, you're not focused in your new business criteria and priorities if you're responding to more than 3 or 4 a year.
Got it. All right. I love that perspective. So let's talk about smaller agencies, 25 person, 40 person shops. If they are participating in an RFP and the pitch process, how can they stand out in a pitch from your experience?
By being unforgettable. I mean, it's tough enough. Hey, small agencies have won a lot of my reviews. When I ran the Church's Chicken Review, an unknown, 25 person agency in Boulder, Colorado won the account. It was made. And then they became famous afterward. And they were unforgettable. They made a video for us that was unforgettable. We couldn't put them out of our minds. We discovered through the process that they were also the brightest, smartest people pitching our business. But if I had 2 words to recommend, you just gotta, hey, no one ever got fired hiring BBDO or Ogilvy or J. Walter or whatever. But a lot of marketers have been fired for hiring that unknown challenger agency. But the only way is to survive and advance. That's Coach Valvano's line. In an RFP process or a review process or a pitch process is to be unforgettable. And that's everything from your RFP response to your meetings. And how do you be unforgettable? Well, we'll do another charging the agency fund to a tier on maybe how to be unforgettable.
Yep. Awesome. And then, from a new business perspective, so you wrote this article, 20 things. We don't have time probably for 20 things, but what are some of the top pieces of advice from a new business perspective that you have for agencies in 2020?
Stick to your, devise a content calendar, stick to it. Tell your story, tell it in a humble way. Go to MikePalma.com. You'll see it today. There are 20 ways, but at the core of it, it's devise your content calendar and build out your assets, your content assets, and stick to it. Get the stuff out. I get a lot of stuff from agencies every day. Something silly shows up because they think I'm going to send them an RFP for this car thing or whatever. And it's stupid stuff. I get, I don't want to say because the agency will know that I think what they send me is stupid. But very rarely do I get a valuable piece of content from an agency. Valuable, something I can learn from, something my client can learn from. I get a lot of self-promotional stuff. And that's not what I mean by content calendar. It's valuable content. We've been talking about learning all morning, you and I. That your target prospects can learn from. Free. You're going to give it to them. You don't give them the recipe to the secret sauce. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to be unforgettable here, but you got to offer up stuff that's valuable. I get stuff on the counter over there now. It's silly. I don't even have it. It's harder to throw out than keep, so I keep a lot of it. But don't confuse that with outreach or a content calendar. I mean, sending self-promotional stuff from your agency, like T-shirts or any of that, that's gravy. That's icing on the cake here. That's not outreach. That's not content. Content is providing stuff that people can learn from, valuable content that you and I would value and learn from. I mean, we're students of the business. So are clients. Clients are reading stuff on LinkedIn all the time. Clients comment on and engage with my content all the time on LinkedIn. And it's a great vehicle. And there are other vehicles. Medium's great. We got one agency in Rochester doing Medium. But I would say that's it in a nutshell. And for the others, funny stuff, go to mikepalma.com. And check it out. I just posted it this morning in anticipation of our podcast.
I like that. What about in terms of agency owners, leadership, maybe that just says, "Hey, we're too busy for content. We're too busy to put this together to make this a priority." Consistently, I talk with agencies. And onboard them into our collective. And, one of the questions we ask during our review process is, rank your own sales and marketing on a scale of 1 to 10. And they all say 80% of the time, they say 3. That's about what they give themselves. Yeah, they know that they're not doing a good job. But I've
heard that.
What would you say? Should they get help? I mean, is that the solution to, hire somebody or hire a freelancer or hire a group to help with their thought leadership, content marketing, and editorial calendar, the whole 9 yards? I mean,
great. I'm very biased and very opinionated about this. Hire freelancers to handle your problems, not your opportunities. Hire freelancers to do the stuff your employees don't want to do. Okay, your employees don't want to mess with a lot of problems. Hire freelancers to handle the problem. Hey, here's what I'll tell you, small business, small agency owners that say that, and I'll say it as kindly as possible. You're in the business of new business, not advertising or communications or solutions. I think we're in the solution. You're in the business of new business, and here's why. What I've learned in 30 years, there are 2 guarantees in this business. Accounts come and go. In fact, they go, the better the job you do, the more likely they are to leave. Because they think they can do it without you once they reach a certain threshold of success. Accounts come and go, people come and go with them. That's the only guarantee. I've been in this business 30 years. I've consulted with hundreds of agencies. If you don't make your agency account the number 1 account in your agency, you won't grow. You might stick to a couple of clients that you have and you hold on to for dear life, and it's death by 1,000 toothpicks. They will just gash you every day until they leave, and they will leave. Look at your client roster now and realize in 2030, that's a great topic. I just read, I was inspired by an article, how to approach 2020 with 2030 in mind. What a great article it was. It completely inspired me. And I would almost, I don't like absolutes, again, guarantees. I could confidently say, if you look at your client roster now, if you are in business in 2030, maybe one of them will be on your 2030 roster. It was just 2010. I can't believe it's 2020. The things I set out to do in 2010 are the reason why I'm having success in 2020, because I prepared 10 years out. I built a blog. I built a content calendar. I never went after clients to run reviews for. They came to me. And I can assure you, they can say until they're blue in the face, we don't have time, our marketing efforts are 3, the cobbler's son has no shoes. I hear all that. Those were not acceptable, you know, and I don't accept them for my clients. I challenge them. They say, what are you people doing half the day? They're sitting around on friggin' Facebook. I mean, let's be real here. You don't have time to promote the most important client at your agency, and that's your agency. That's your number one client, is your agency's brand, not somebody who's renting you right now. They're renting you. They're renting you until they get bigger or until they're done with you. You might have a 1-year contract. I doubt you have a 2-year contract. Why would you assume they'll be with you in 10 years or 3 years or 2 years when you only have a 1-year contract, if you have that? I mean, we're all just freelance, even if you own your agency. So I know that's opinionated, but no one's paying me enough to lie to them.
No, that's why the show exists, for opinion as well. And I think we'll have to do a follow-up episode for sure to unpack some of the, you know, there's probably lots more opinions where that came from.
Hey,
So.
hey, I respect everybody. You know, hey, I tell my clients, you want to add a 0 to my fee? I'll tell you how great your marketing efforts are, you know, and I'll lie to you until you blow in the face. I think what you're saying is exactly right, Robby. I mean, they realize that they don't have, they don't. It's funny, I'll go in, I'll show clients how to do this program, and they'll say, wow, that's what we do for our clients. Like, why wouldn't you do it for yourself if you do it for your client? I don't understand that. I mean, the only thing you can control is your own mind, you know? So why wouldn't you put it to work to get new business, you know, and to grow your agency? Unless you don't want to grow, that's fine too. I talk to them, not a lot, but a few people say, hey, we're fine. Hey, Joe, at the owner of Waffle House, I've approached him 100 times about doing advertising, Joe Rogers for Waffle House. And I said, boy, Joe, you got to do this, you got to do that. You know what he says? We don't want to grow anymore. Our restaurants are full. We can't handle any more business, is what the owner of Waffle House says. So if you have that kind of agency, then sure, then fine. You don't need any more business. Don't do anything. Like Joe at Waffle House. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't have to. He says, exit 80, turn right. That's what he says.
Yeah.
He tells you.
I feel like, I mean, the positive thing is, I mean, at least from my perspective, like, especially over the past even 5 years, there are more agencies engaging with consultants and coaches and trying to do something about the problem, trying to fix their own marketing and trying to fix their positioning and, you know, their outreach and those efforts. And so there's a lot of agencies that still have, you know, a lot to go, but then I think at least I see more effort, you know, happening. I see more intention happening out there. And sometimes, you know, I think it's a matter of agency principles. Just some of them aren't, you know, new business minded and business development minded. And that's just not the way that they're wired. You know, I mean, I tend to be kind of a salesman type person. I'm ready to sell. And I'm always thinking about that. Whereas, you know, an agency owner might be more of a creative and he just wants to do his job and not worry about bringing on new clients, when really that is his job, is to bring on new clients. So.
Well, like I said, some people don't want to grow. God bless them. You know, I don't judge anybody. You asked me what I thought about that. I told you right away. I'm very opinionated. I have a very strong point of view, and it comes from 30 years of seeing very dear friends and clients go out of business or grow or become an overnight sensation. You know, Alex Boguski called me, and I placed employee number 18. That was 1990. I've seen that agency grow, you know, maybe the best case study I have. I've seen Tom Monahan at Leonard Monahan establish one of the greatest all-time creative agencies in the history of advertising go out of business. So I've learned that, you know, from my clients, and sometimes a lot of things are beyond your control, you know? I mean, which is why, I mean, who knows? Your client might just get bought. Maybe your client today is getting bought. You won't know for another month. What happens? Look at what happened with SunTrust and BB&T in your town.
Yeah.
Right? Okay? So the agency for BB&T felt pretty good. It's Tombras out of Knoxville. And the agency for SunTrust, 22 Squared, they felt pretty good. I don't know if either feels pretty good right now. I think one of them will feel great. I think they're both kind of wondering what's going to happen with their futures. So they couldn't control that. Yeah. You know, they couldn't control that there was going to be a merger, and now only one agency. So there are things that happen that are, hey, it's, you know, life's it's an inexact science, you know, and so is advertising. So
it seems like the common theme is really just take nothing for granted. I mean, you really can't take your client relationships, your pitches, your new business. You can't take any of it for granted because it's, you know, nothing is a given.
I wake up every day thinking that I'm 90 days from the street. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, because I worked for a guy who sold his agency to Omnicom for $25 million. I'm not going to name his name. And in 18 months, he was broke. I think if you go through life with a humble swagger, I think you have to have a swagger. I think you have to be a leader. But you got to be humble about it. And just remember that, you know, I think we're all just a few months away from, that's why when I walk past a panhandler or a beggar, I can't say no to them. I got to give them something, a quarter, because I don't know. I mean, that might be me. I mean, or it could have been me, but it might be me. And I think that kind of sensitivity to the human condition is crucial in business and in life. And approaching your agency as if it were a vocation and not a business. And that's where offering valuable content for free comes from. You're doing this. This is what you do. So vocation-based targeting, vocation-based positioning, and just having a humble swagger, I think it's crucial.
I like the humble swagger. Couldn't agree more. Well, powerful perspective. Really appreciate you coming on the show, the insights that you shared. I think the audience definitely will. What's the best way for agencies and the brands that might see this to reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Mike Palma, P-A-L-M-A, I'm Italian, MikePalma.com. And I think my email's on there, but if not, it's Palma at MikePalma.com.